Hey everyone, I hope that you are doing well. I want to take a detour from my normal content where I go through the 4th edition books and we talk about 4th edition as though it was the latest edition of the game and create characters and all that. I want to deviate from that just a little bit because I was thinking about something and I really wanted to get everybody else's thoughts on it. And it's really about the state of Dungeons and Dragons right now and kind of what its future is. And this is not the necessarily the game itself, but really the brand, the identity of Dungeons and Dragons. And it was I just was thinking about it, and it was just something I'd be interested to see what the community has to say. And so I have a few thoughts of what I was thinking, and then I'll open it up for the comments, and we'll see what everyone else is thinking. Before I get into that, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in this content, and then please check out the description for information about how to become a channel member if you want to get early access to videos, or join Ko-fi if you would like to access to the Discord server. So I was thinking the other day about the fact that Wizards of the Coast has basically ended development of Dungeons and Dragons. They said as much in the fact that saying that 5th edition 2024 is not really a new edition, it's still the same game, and they just kind of refer to it as 2024, and that this is like the last edition of the game. They've more or less said that. And then obviously, starting a year ago after they released the new edition of the game, they started either letting the different design staff go, or those key players in the design of the game left on their own. So you no longer have Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford and others that were key parts of Dungeons and Dragons for so long. And so what you've got is this basic skeleton crew at Wizards of the Coast now, and the content that it seems that they're putting together is, just supplements to the game. There's nobody there designing new stuff for the game. It's really the same as any other content creator that's out there that's creating things that you can use with the game. Now, Wizards of the Coast is almost just one of those other content creators making things for Dungeons and Dragons. And the thing that's weird for me is that means that D&D doesn't really have a future. It's where it is right now, and that's that. But it doesn't really have a place where it's going. You've always had this belief that throughout all the years there was always something that was going to come next, and at some point a new edition would come down, or whatever. But it was never going to stay the same. And obviously, over the years, there's been all of the different editions that we've seen, and everyone has their favorite editions, and they play those editions. And but there's always been something new, and now it seems we're in this spot where it's like, I don't know what's coming next. It seems like the brand is just dead. I mean, that's the crux of it. Is it's not going anywhere, and I'm not sure what to make of that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because D&D is synonymous with role-playing games, and obviously even with whatever people think about Dungeons and Dragons and the fact that they're not doing anything new with it as far as the design, it does control like as much as like 3/4 of the role-playing game market, and so it is still a force to be reckoned with. And but if they feel that they can make their money just simply by licensing the trademark and stuff to other people and let them do the work on the heavy lifting, then maybe that's what their model is. So, but what I wanted to kind of talk about is, like, I was thinking about this as almost like as an adventure. And if you think of Dungeons and Dragons itself as a campaign and an adventure, there's always the talk about you have these adventures and people play the game and you're on a campaign that runs years and years and years with these same characters. It's almost like D&D itself has been on this journey. It's been a campaign. And if you go back and you look and you say, okay, so, mid 70s, you've got these two guys who love storytelling, they love war games, and they love messing with these mechanics and putting things together. And they decide, hey, let's take our ideas about what we got and we're going to put them into a game. And this is before you had crowdfunding, you didn't have Kickstarters and things like that. So it's just these couple guys and whatever means they have to collect financing to be able to print these books and everything and to market it. It was a labor of love to put this out there. And the original D&D is just a few pamphlets, really, that they're like, I think each one is like 30 something pages long. So it's really a small piece of content, but it's what got it all started. And it was built on from two people who really loved the idea of this game and wanted to put it out there and, and see what they could do with it. Obviously their intention is to try to make some money. That's always, what drives a lot of things. And they wanted to see what would happen with it. So they put it out there, and then this whole adventure begins where through the 70s and the 80s, they formed TSR in order to be able to sell it and market it. And then you get these box sets with starter sets. You get, they start magazines. There's the adventures get published. They get different editions of the game. You get into the advanced D&D and the different basic and expert and the Beckme versions. And it just grows, and it becomes this phenomenon over the first 10 years or so of its existence. And it's a cultural thing where now, it's not just some niche thing. It's like people actually know what Dungeons and Dragons is, and that's this immediate growth that it had. And it becomes something really special, and then as you get into the 90s, now we start getting to this corporate area. The adventure takes a turn, where we're not really with just these couple folks anymore, and just a small thing that's built on the design and stuff of this game. But now we're actually getting into a corporation. It goes to Wizards of the Coast, who eventually is purchased by Hasbro. And now you've got bigger budgets. You've got audiences that you can reach that you didn't reach before. It becomes mainstream. It becomes a commercialized brand. It's not just people who know the game, and it's just, you still play in people's basements and living rooms and things, but it becomes something that everybody knows about and is actually a brand name from a recognizable corporation. And it's like a whole different thing, but you still had that core designer thing. You had the people there who understood Dungeons and Dragons and the creative side of things and wanted to make something special with it. So when you had second edition come out, and you had third edition, and you had fourth edition and fifth edition, you had people who played the game, who loved the game, who were trying to make something special with it and take it to the next level, just like you did at the very beginning. And it was always built from people who were first and foremost focused on the game and making something good with it. And then the corporate side of it was the secondary piece that they had to live into the rules, certainly, as you do with any product. But it was always this creative thing. But then I think, as we've seen over the last 10 years or so, it's taken a turn, and D&D, the brand name, has been put on a lot of licensed products that are out there. And this isn't groundbreaking. I know other people have made videos on the same thing. I'm not acting like I've just discovered this, but it's become something more. And even just having like your Stranger Things starter packs and stuff like that, where you're using this licensed brand to bring in money and make money without having to design the content really yourself. You rely on other people to do it, and you just license this stuff out to them. And so there's this shift where D&D is no longer a product that is being developed by anybody. It's just a licensed brand. And so that's why you don't have at Wizards of the Coast a team of people that are actively steering it towards the future. It's just a brand, just like any other brand, and you're just looking for ways that you can profit from this brand. And it's this balancing act, because as a business, you naturally are always looking for ways to profit for something. That's the whole reason that you are in business. But there's this point where you can move completely away from the creative side of it, and you're purely focused on the money. And that's where it seems that Wizards and Hasbro has moved now, where it doesn't matter about the creative side of Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't matter about the future of Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't need to have a future, because the brand is so recognizable. You can just simply license out that logo to whoever wants to pay the money for it. You collect a few royalties and you're good to go, and you didn't have to invest anything in it. And that's where we are. And that's where I ultimately come down to that D&D is essentially dead. As a game, D&D is dead. It doesn't really have a future anymore. It's just what's there is what's there, and that's all you're going to get from it. Maybe at some point it gets revived. but it's kind of sad that this adventure kind of has come to a close now. It's started with this little seed from way back in the 70s and went through this incredible growth and this movement and everything that it was over the last 50 years. And now it's done. And Wizards has decided that we're not doing this anymore. We're just going to make money using the name. So that's the sad part of this, that it doesn't, there's not, you always, every time when I've played the game for the last, 13 years that I've been playing this game, I've always wondered about what was coming next, what new rules were going to happen. And so, I started with 4th edition, and then I was very excited when 5th edition came out, and I like 5th edition. And then when they said a new edition was coming out, I was excited about that too, because I like seeing the things change. I like seeing things come along. And obviously there's other games out there, Daggerheart and Shadow Dark and Draw Steel and everything. There's tons of games out there, but within the D&D space, I was still always excited when there was something new that was going to come down the road. And it's just a little sad right now to realize that there won't be anything, whether I was going to play it or not. I mean, I never played 2024. I looked at the books and everything, and I have them. This looks fine, but it didn't matter whether I was going to play it. I just like the fact that they're doing something with it, and it has something, and it's just not there anymore. So, but there's another piece of this that I feel like it's also kind of a relief in a way, because there's so many of us who are used to playing dead editions of D&D. Everyone out there that plays advanced D&D and basic expert and BECME and 2nd edition and 3rd edition and 3.5 and 4th edition and now really even 5th edition. This is what we've been playing for years, is a dead edition of the game. It's an edition of the game that is not being developed for officially. And so it's, but we still enjoy the game. We still enjoy everything about it. It doesn't matter that nobody is actively working on making new content from the company that publishes the game, or they're not, making supplements or rules corrections or anything like that. It doesn't matter. And, we play 4th edition, which is a relatively new edition. For the folks that are playing advanced edition of the game, that game is 40 years old, and so it's fine that it doesn't have anything new coming out for it, because it's about the players and using those rules to make the game that they want. And obviously there's third-party publishers that make stuff, and so but officially it's not even recognized as a thing anymore. So and maybe that's so that it's okay that the game itself doesn't exist, because D&D is essentially, the entire community is built upon people playing whichever is their favorite edition. And all of those editions that aren't the current one are already dead editions of the game. So it doesn't really matter that if this latest edition now kind of becomes a dead edition because they don't really do much more with it other than the occasional supplement or something, then that's okay, because the community is used to that anyway. We've been doing it for years and years and years. So, it doesn't really impact us as players, because we're going to continue to play whichever version of the game is our favorite, and that's what we're going to do. So that's the piece of this where it's like it kind of just continues on. The game will continue on as long as the players are continuing to play it, and there will be people that make supplemental content outside of Wizards of the Coast, and we'll continue to use that and everything. So the game itself, whatever version of the game that you like, certainly is not going away, is not dead, is not something that's like, just because Wizards decides they don't want to keep supporting it, that suddenly D&D is going to fade into the background or anything like that. It is still there. And, but the interesting thing for me is it's like, okay, well, they're basically saying that we're going to own this trademark and we're going to license that out to people, but we don't really own the game anymore. That's really up to everybody else that plays the game. You guys do what you want with it. And for me, it's like, all right, great. That's what we've been doing anyway. So we'll keep doing that. But it is still a little bit weird for me to think that you have this brand that is so iconic, and goes back for so long, and was what started all of this, and that the corporation that owns it has basically said, we're not really into that anymore. And I really do hope that at some point either they decide that they are going to do something new with it, and they start bringing in some designers to create the next edition, and maybe this won't be for many, many years. Or maybe they decide that they're gonna sell it to somebody else, or they license the process of creating a new edition, or whatever it is. I just don't like the thought that it just doesn't have any future to it. That's really what just kind of bothers me, is because whether or not I would play the latest version of the game, the fact that there would be another version of the game just makes it more special. So and like I said, it doesn't matter, because I'll likely keep playing 4th edition, and so none of that really makes any difference. But let me know your thoughts. That's where I'm coming from. I just had this thing the other day. I was thinking about it, so I'm curious what you have to say. What do you feel about what has happened with D&D over the last year? Not as the game. The game, whether you are a fan of 5th edition or any other edition of the game. I'm not really talking about the brand. I'm just the game. I'm talking about the brand and the iconic nature of what D&D is. And what are your thoughts on what has happened with this brand over the last year, with what Wizards has been doing and where they've said they're going to go, and the fact that people have left the team and all of that sort of stuff. Very curious to hear what everybody has to say. Just to see what everybody thinks about the future of Dungeons and Dragons as a brand, and where we think we might be over the next few years. So that's my deviation from the normal content, to kind of talk a little bit about that. Very interested to read what everybody has to say. If you like the content, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the description for other ways that you can help support the content that I'm putting together. But that's what I had to say this time around. Until next time, take care.